Home is where the heart is and where you should be laid to rest. But that can be tricky when you live in the diaspora. It's expensive and bringing a body back can be complicated, turning a peaceful farewell into a nightmare. But with EcoSure Diaspora Funeral Cover, you can prepare your final trip back home with ease. You can add dependents, giving you all access to a payout to help with financing a funeral. Sign up for EcoSure Diaspora Funeral Cover today by visiting www.ecosure.co.zw/diaspora. The following episode contains instances of kidnapping violence and threat of violence that some listeners may find upsetting. If these are likely to trigger you, please give this episode a pass and let's catch up on the next one.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here on the filling station.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hi.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, sure. Thank God for that. 11 minutes again. This happened on the previous episode. And you know what? I hate to say this, but having an Apple device just makes life a lot easier.
Guys, Android lives matter.
Android lives matter, but they're also stressful lives.
No. To get better get your equipment to work with us, Auntie.
Welcome to the Feeling Station.
Thank you.
For those listening to the podcast for the first time, it's a family, friendship, and romantic breakup podcast showcasing stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from their experiences. Now, I hope you find today's story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful. And the podcast is really popular for two main reasons. The first being I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the fun part. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Cool. So I've gone to Southern Africa and I've given you a name from South Africa. And the name that you have is Nomvuyo, which is Nomvuyo. Nomvuyo. You could either call yourself that, or shorten it if you want. And all that really means is happiness.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
Yeah, you gave me the impression that you're a happy, bubbly person, so I'm like, okay, I might choose that.
Try.
You try, yeah?
No, thank you.
Cool, so Nomvuyo is your name.
Makes sense.
And what are you calling the person you're talking about today?
I'm going to call him Thunder.
Why did you choose Thunder?
Well, maybe because it's a nickname he preferred. I don't actually know why he called himself this at some point in his life or whatever, and didn't want to bother thinking of a different one. So, but it also makes sense when you think
story.
Of his character. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. So the story is about Nomvuyo and Thunder. And the second reason why the podcast is doing great as well is there are real life lessons that people take away from the story you're going to share. So what would you like anybody listening to your episode today to walk away with?
Okay. Initially, when I thought about this, I only had like one lesson. And then obviously thinking about it, I had a couple more. But I think the first lesson is it's easy to judge someone's decisions when you don't know the choices they had. Do you need me to explain or?
No, I think that will come to life with the story.
Yeah. Sure. The second one is always trust your gut instinct. I think this was probably the only lesson the main lesson there is, because it's important. If you're Christian, people talk about discernment and things like that. It's really important to your gut sometimes knows things before you do, and we tend to ignore that. But it's a very big lesson in this.
And it never ends well when you don't listen to it, right?
Exactly. And then the third lesson is when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
100%. Couldn't have been said better with that one. Okay, so I'll just play them back. Number one, it's easy to judge someone's decision when you don't know the choices they had. And then number two, always trust your gut or your instinct. It's never really wrong, isn't it? And then number three, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Cool. Let's get into it then, Nomvio. Where did you meet Thunder, and why did you decide to give him a chance at a relationship with you?
Okay, so how I actually met him, I met him in our hood, where I grew up. Well, I long moved, but where I grew up, a small little community. And it was a day I was coming from work, and I was with a very close friend of mine. And then we were walking down, and then this guy he was like meters away from us, behind us actually. I'd never met him. He'd, I think, recently moved into our area. I didn't even know him. And then my friend is like, have you ever, have you met this guy? Do you know him? Like, no, I don't. Then she says, okay, wait, let me introduce you guys. And so we stopped. He caught up with us, and that's how we met. I think what's important to highlight here, which is part of my lessons, is the day I met him, we probably spoke for less than 5 minutes, because we walked from where he caught up with us, walked to my friend's house, which was just a few meters from there. And then from there, it was our house. And then he stayed a few houses away from me.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a space of probably 5 minutes, a 5-minute walk with this guy. Got introduced to who he was, whatever. Do not remember what we spoke about. But what stood out and what still stands out to this day is the fact that when I met him, I knew for a fact I never wanted to see him again. Like, there was nothing. He didn't do anything wrong. Cannot remember what our conversation was about. But I just knew, forever will be quite short if I never see him again.
Wow. Okay.
And I just didn't know why. Didn't know. Nothing wrong. He never said anything wrong. I just did not. He was not. And to this day, I've never met anyone that I've not disliked per se, because it's not like I didn't like him. I just was. It just didn't gel.
So something about your spirit didn't gel with his spirit, isn't it?
Absolutely. And he's probably the only person on this earth to this day that I've ever felt like that. So that happened.
Yeah.
And we didn't even exchange details or anything like that. And I'm a very happy-go-lucky type person. I'm very impressionable, So it would make sense that a new person in the area, in the hood, I would want to get to know him. That's the sort of person I am. But no, didn't want. Couldn't be bothered. So I left and thought nothing of it. But what I then realized is that the day I really didn't want to see him ever again, he made it his point to make sure he would be a part of my life. So we had very opposite reactions to meeting each other.
Yeah.
So to give the story a bit of context, a few months before I met him, I had a baby. So this is a few months after I'd had a baby. I had a baby, and I got pregnant in college around 1920 there. Baby daddy was not in the picture, was never there. So basically I had a baby. And so I was meeting this guy a few months after this happened. So this will make sense as we go. So anyway, him and I meet, blah, blah, blah. That's it. Move on. From then on, I started seeing him in a lot of places, like obviously in the hood. Conveniently, he would be around, like when I drop off and from commuting and stuff like that. He would just randomly be everywhere, right? Dude was just now all over the place. And we still didn't. He tried to make conversation. I really wasn't into it, but I'm also not a rude person. So we would, hey, if we're walking together, cool. But nothing really is going on here. And then he got my number from a friend. So now he started to call and message and all of these things. And again, I'm being polite. I'm not trying to. I've just had a baby with a man that ran away from me. So I'm also not trying to get into anything, and not with this guy. So his advances were just not falling. not landing right. So time goes by. I think it's probably a few months, not even a few months, probably like less than a month into it. Um, I hear at home, I hear my mom asking me one day that somebody told her that I was dating someone.
Right.
And I'm like, no, 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 I'm not. Like, no. And because of this, I told you I just had a baby, well, a few months back. And obviously, because baby daddy was never in the picture, and obviously that was an issue, I think my mom thought I was lying about this relationship. Like either I was hiding this person, or maybe this person was still the same person that got me pregnant. Or like she just thought I was hiding something.
Right.
I mean, I hid the pregnancy, so obviously, there was a lot of trust issues there. So she thought.
Well, wait a minute. You say you hid the pregnancy. I know this is not the story you're talking about. You hid it for how long? Because at some point you can't hide it anymore. So what do you mean you hid it?
Well, yeah. So I hid the pregnancy for as long as I could. I think I then said something probably like 6 months into it.
Okay.
But I hid it for as long as I could because again, in that time I was trying to figure out, is baby daddy gonna be there? Like, what's the plan? Are we doing anything with it? Like, what's going on? And then obviously I realized he didn't want to be in the picture. Things were happening on his end, and then I had no choice. I had to tell my mom, and blah blah blah. I had a baby. On my own.
So was mom asking all these questions because she doesn't want to be in the dark again, or
I think so. Okay. Yes. In her defense, to be honest, yes. I think it was coming from, a concerned parent. She's probably trying to handle things differently. One of those, okay, if you've got a boyfriend, let's see him, let's get to know him. Right. And I'm sure maybe she honestly thought, Kuti, maybe this could be the same guy. That's the baby daddy. So maybe I don't know how to then introduce him to. I'm sure she had a lot of assumptions, and she was trying to do things differently in a way where I would feel comfortable, and then she also wouldn't find out things later.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how it came across. It was one of those, I found out from, I think it was the maid that had told her that, so yeah. But me explaining that, no, I'm not dating anybody. Obviously she didn't believe me because she just thought, we've had these issues before. So it kind of put me in a corner where, to be honest, the next thing she said was, no, I need to meet this guy. So this is the guy, this guy that I just Thanda is the person that she'd been told I was dating. And so she was like, no, you need to invite him here. I need to meet him. And I'm thinking, no, but there is no relationship here. I've spoken to him a couple of times, yes, but we are not dating. But she didn't believe it. And don't blame her. So anyway, she needed to meet him. I tell him, I ask him actually, how did my mom get to find out, or rather, how did even our helper get to find out that you and I even talking, and why does she have the impression that we're dating, and why did this end up getting to my mom? Which I later found out that he had told our helper to tell my mom, like he had orchestrated this whole thing. But yes, this is the sort of person he was.
What?
So when I say he made a point to make sure he was in my life, he did everything he could. So my mom now found out, and I tell him, my mom said, you need to come. But when you come, let's make it clear you and I aren't dating. But she's only going to be convinced after she meets you. Then we'll talk about that. And then he says, okay, cool, I'll come. I mean, to him, happy days, because this is what he wants. Dinner is scheduled. Dude rocks up, and there's like a dinner. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? But there's a dinner. He's there being so nice and charming and all of these things. And I mean, my mom is not one to be convinced by, theatrics, but she is. She seems to be eating up all of this, whatever he's serving, she's eating up. Everyone's very happy. It just seems like, he's just mixing into the family and everything is okay. I'm wondering, but anyway, So the plan was to tell my mom that no, we're not dating. If he had interest, he could have said, but he came and painted a picture of us at least being in a relationship or early stages of a relationship. Instead of just saying, you know what, no, we've just been talking and whatever, we're good friends, that's it. But now he's painting a picture of what? We are good. We're in a relationship. You know, I like your daughter, what. And, you know, my mom does the whole, what are your intentions with my child type thing. And Jude lays it on thick, how he's looking to settle down and all of these things. So dinner comes and
at
goes.
This point, he knows you've got a child, right?
He does. He knows at this point, he had found out every single thing he could about me. So he knew this.
Okay.
So he knew. So yes, he's there. He's like, no, I don't care about the baby. Like, I don't mind that there's a baby. You know, I'm there for all of it and stuff. And again, because all of this had happened, and my mom was obviously feeling how she felt about how I'd moved with the past relationship, I'm sure she thought, this is a godsend. This man is there. My daughter's going to be okay. You know, she's not, maybe she thought, you know, I'm not going to be a single parent. So amazing. All of these things. I don't know what was going on in her head, but whatever it was, she was eating up all of this. Dinner came and passed. And from then on, everyone was talking about us being a relationship. It was more now, it got to a point where it was peer pressure. Everyone was like, how can you not see that he's a good person? What more do you want? And remember, I'm coming from one, I'm a very, very young mother, who's just been in a relationship, or what I thought was a relationship, and then the guy ditched and all of this, and now I have a baby. So I'm fragile in my own state. Like I'm not. I'm fragile because again, I'm a child. Who's just had a child and who's disappointed her parents and all of these other things that are going on in the background in my mind. And now everyone I know, everyone close to me, parents included, are saying, you know what, this is a good person. Why are you not giving him a chance? What's your point? Like, tell us, what are your reasons? Because from everything we can see, he's a good person. This gets drummed into me quite a few times, and by very close people, that I think at some point, to be honest, I gave in. I was like, you know what? Okay, cool. He's a good person. I'm probably the messed up one here. Maybe I have trauma from past relationship or whatever. Maybe let me give him a chance. He's a good person. So we started dating at some point.
So you started dating out of peer pressure from everyone?
Out of peer pressure. I don't think I was ever attracted to him.
And was this down to your nice personality?
I mean that too, but I think it was more. It was more everyone's opinions. You know, when people keep telling you someone's a good person, you start thinking, am I not seeing things right? Like, am I missing something here? So it was that. I thought probably I was missing something. And I also thought maybe I have unresolved issues and I'm just maybe projecting them on this guy. So let me put my issues aside and give this guy a chance, because I had no reason. He hadn't done really anything that I knew of that would give me red flags or anything like that. He was there. Like, he was a very present person. He was there. He'd call. He was there. Right. So I thought, fine, let's give it a shot. We started dating. And it went okay. It went okay, actually. I forgot I didn't like him because
you forgot you didn't like him for reasons you didn't know why you didn't like him.
Exactly. I think he forgot my initial instinct was, no, I don't like this person. I forgot that part because everyone said he's a good person. So I just thought, girl, you probably have trauma from your last relationship. So it's a you problem. He was good. To his credit, in the first few months of the relationship, amazing. Like, treated me like a princess. He was there. We would go to work together. He worked in a different place. He didn't work in town. I worked in town. And from where he worked, he didn't necessarily need to get into town, but he would get into town to wait for me so that we'd go home together. It was all of this nice lovey-dovey, He was there for my child, even, anything my child needed, then he was there. He understood I was a mom, all of these things. He was there. He was a very present, caring boyfriend. Sure. Months go by, everything is fine. But I'm not like in love. I'm not all of these things. I'm just in a relationship right now with a, seemingly good guy.
So how did you describe things as lovey-dovey? Were you speaking from his end?
No, from his end. Yes, from his end. And I mean lovey-dovey in that from everyone else's perspective. This is what love looks like. He's there, he's caring, he provides, he does all of the things. So ticking boxes on the lovey-dovey, he is doing all of the things. Did I emotionally get there? No, not emotionally, it just wasn't. It was a relationship that I was in, yes. But I wasn't feeling the feels. I wasn't feeling any of the things that butterflies, nothing, none of the emotional stuff. So months go by, and then there's a time that, so previously as a teen or whatever, I had sort of dated my friend's brother, the friend that I mentioned earlier, who stayed in the same neighborhood. So I dated her brother, but I think we were in high school type thing. It was just one of those. So he was sort of my sort of first boyfriend type thing. And again, this is someone I see often. I'm a family friend at this point because his sister is my best friend and all of these things. So on this particular day, I think it had been his birthday either that week or something like that. Ex-boyfriend, right? And then I saw him walking down the street, and then he stopped, said hi. And then I remembered it was his birthday, said happy belated, whatever, said happy birthday to him. And I think when he left, we hugged, but it was very platonic. It was out in the open, it was out in the street. It wasn't, anything salacious. We're not trying to hide anything or anything like that. It was really, hey, what's up? How you doing? Hug. I mean, he already knew I was dating this person. We stayed in a very small community, so everybody knew everything about everyone. So that was it. That was as far as the interaction went. Very quick, hi, bye, happy birthday, hug. He goes. I go my way, he goes his way. I think the same day or the next day, Thunder comes to my house. He's like, so I saw you with this guy. I'm like, yeah. And he says, so what happened? And I explained to him what happened. He was passing. We said hi. It was his birthday yesterday or whatever. So I said, happy birthday. And he left. And then I think whilst I was explaining this, in the middle of explaining, he slaps me. In the middle. I hadn't even finished my sentence. He slapped me. And I think I was in shock. I wasn't expecting it. It came from nowhere. I didn't understand what I'd done. I just, and I was in shock. That's basically what it was. I was in shock. He again, I mean, he was worked up and was upset and whatever. He quickly apologized, but then also tried to obviously make it seem like it was my fault because of the way I was explaining, because of the way I said it. So I tend to be a very sarcastic person. So I may have, said it sarcastically, but the truth of the matter, nothing happened. And that's what I was trying to, get him to see. But so he made it seem as if it was my fault, blah, blah, blah. And he left, right? We didn't really talk about it much. After this happened, he tried to apologize, but turned it out around on me, and he left. And I'm in shock. I'm in shock because, until something happens to you, you're like, it could never be me.
Yeah.
and then you're there.
Yeah.
So that was me. I was thinking, what the hell? Like, how did this happen? I didn't tell anybody. Because I think with the shock also came the embarrassment of how did this happen to me? How am I actually leaving this? Is somebody just hit me? So I was a little embarrassed about the situation, so I didn't tell anyone. I kept quiet. He, for the next few days, apologized profusely and all of those things. And I think we kept it moving.
He was apologizing He was apologizing for hitting you.
Yes, he apologized for hitting me. Yes. But there was still an undertone of, if you had not said it the way you said it or whatever, you played it down type thing. So it just made me angry, but I'm sorry. So he did all of the things. He did flowers. He tried to like love bomb me into, being okay with the whole situation. And because I didn't want to talk to anyone about it, I kept it moving. We kept going on. I think it kept bothering me though. So I think at some point I then broke up with him. I was like, you know what, this is not working. I can't get over the fact that you hit me. So this is not working. This is never going to work. And I broke it off. When we broke up, he didn't want this breakup to happen. So he didn't take it well. He didn't take it well. He started actually stalking me. I think that's when the stalking started happening.
How long had you been dating for at this point?
Oh gosh, a few months. Like all of this kind of happened very fast. So a few months.
3 months, 6 months?
Let's see. Probably like 3-4 months into it is when this first incident happens. And then probably like a month after that, I'm like, I can't do this. Let's break up. And then, starts the love bombing and the whatever. And then he's trying his best to make up for it and all of it. But he could see I was putting a distance. I just wasn't, there like I used to be. Which kind of made him frantic. And he just started making sure he was everywhere I was. After work, he was there. Even if we hadn't spoken, he'd just be there. He was everywhere. I think I then gave him another chance. I did at some point. I don't know why exactly, but I did. I think because he, kept showing up and he was there. And we got back together. And no logical reason why we got back together.
I mean, but showing up all the time doesn't mean that you need to give him access.
I know. Yes, you're right. You're right. I know all of this.
So I know you said you don't know why he did it, but I mean, it's not really an accident. No, it wasn't an accident. I obviously did make the decision of let me just get back together with this guy. I think because also I thought, he also was trying to convince me that this was a once-off thing. It would never happen again. And I was just making a bigger deal out of it than it was, So I probably then thought, second chance. Maybe Was there a bit of you that missed him as a boyfriend?
Probably I missed him being there. Yes, like just having a person. I think sometimes you miss, even if you're not in love with the person, but you just miss the constant, hey babe, whatever, all of that comes with a relationship. So maybe it was that.
You missed the attention.
Yes, probably. But then he never really stopped giving me attention, even when I broken up with him. because he was still trying to convince me that, this would never happen again. And I think also because I never had said to anyone else that this had happened. So still, when he told people that I'd broken up with him, it's still a question of, but why? And I just couldn't bring myself to talk about what him hitting me and stuff. I think I had a lot of shame when it came to that. So I never spoke to anyone. So I didn't have reasons when people asked, why are you breaking up with him? So that was that. So we got back together. But we got back together and it just wasn't the same on my end. I just couldn't put the effort that I had started putting into it in trying to see him as a good person or whatever just wasn't happening anymore. I just couldn't. I just didn't want to be in this relationship. I sort of probably got back to that instinct of you can't. This is not the person. Like, this is not it. This person is not the person. But I couldn't put it into words. So it led to us fighting a lot, or me just being dismissive of him and him acting out. Yeah, so we had a few fights, just bickering over every single little thing because I didn't want. He just started irritating me. You know, when you're not into a person anymore, they just start irritating you. They breathe, and you're like, "Why are you breathing?" So it just started. I just strongly now felt that urge of, no, man, this is not like that. That intuition, that thing was still just very heavy. So I wasn't masking it anymore. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was just there. But we just started fighting a lot, which led to the second breakup. Dude, I can't do this. I can't. This is not working for me. He hit me again.
Hey, gosh.
Yes, because I was trying to break up with him. Yeah. and the initial shock I had the first time he hit me, I think the second time it was, I think I felt sorry for myself more than anything. But then I then solidified, no, you can't keep, you said this would never happen again, and this has happened. So no, we're not getting back together. I don't accept your apology. This is just not going to work. You do you, I do me, whatever. He's like, no, I was actually planning to marry you, putting money together, what. I think, you know how men tend to think if they lead with the, I'm marrying you, I think men think women are,
some men
want to be. Some men think that if I dangle the marriage carrot, women will just put up with everything.
It's worked for a few people though, and
it does work. But remember, I was like 20 then, so this didn't mean a thing to me. I didn't want to get married. And I didn't want to get married to him. I did not like this person like that. I didn't. So I none of this did not mean a thing. I even told him, you know what, I've just started work. I have a new baby. I don't want to get married. Not now, at least. So let's just, if you want to marry me, 2 years down the line, you can still do it, but not now. I don't want to hear about it. Let's not. Exactly. But I didn't get back together with him after the second time that he hit me. And held to my guns. This is a breakup. We're not doing this. I think a few days on, he comes to my house again. So this is where it gets dramatic, because he comes to my house and we're talking. Remember, I have a new baby. At this point, I think he was, I don't know if it was crawling or something, but he was still a baby, right? And he picks up my baby. He picks up my baby and he holds my baby by his foot.
What?
And
so he's dangling him upside down?
Yes. And he says, if I don't get back together with him, he was going to drop my baby.
Bruh.
Yeah. That actually happened. Like I can even see it as I speak to you now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's holding my baby and he's like, I don't care what you say, but if you don't get back together, if we're not together, I don't care. I will drop this baby. And I think I explained that I was a young parent, right? Obviously. So I didn't, before this moment, I don't think I strongly had like those motherly instincts, whatever. I'm just a child. I've just had a baby, whatever, you know. But in that moment, every instinct I have of being a parent kicked in. And
Mm.
it's honestly in that very moment I decided whatever it takes, literally, whatever it takes to keep this copacetic, to have this relationship in a place where this never happens, where my child is never in the middle of this, I will do it. No questions. I don't care. I'm never going to let this happen again. So we got back together.
But what about getting back together is a motherly instinct?
No, the motherly instinct was, remember, if I was with him, he wasn't going to want to do anything to my child, right?
So that's the protective component of
So
motherly
yes,
instincts
so I'm
too.
like, whatever it is I need to do, and I know in hindsight, I'm thinking, I could have gone to the police and whatever, whatever. And that plays out later, because in a different incident, why I never took the police route and why that would not have worked in that instant. Or told someone or anything. But there was no, and this person was so good at being a good person or pretending they were a good person to everyone else that everyone else believed him, even when we were arguing and having fights and whatever. Even in small instances, you would see how everyone would look at me like I am the one with the problem.
Mm.
So I think I'd already caught on to the fact that I can't tell anyone this. There was no one there's no one that witnessed it. So there's no one to side with me. So how will they believe somebody actually did this?
Yeah.
And again, maybe I'm the one that's the problem. Why am I being so pushy? I will do whatever it takes. Let me just do whatever it takes that my child is never in this position again.
I have a
So we
different.
got back together.
I have a different
Yeah.
question, and I really don't want to take away from this, but then it's just the way that you said it. You said that you were young and that you didn't have motherly instincts.
Okay. Do you want to
Yeah.
do your question and then I explain?
So my question really is, what would have been motherly instinct that you weren't doing instinctively before this whole episode?
Oh,
with,
before
where you've
this.
been hit, yeah.
Okay. What I mean by that is that looking back then to now, because I then had two more babies after that, like years later, right? And the way I was with them earlier on is very different from when I was, because I was at this, when I had my baby, I was 19, 20, right? I was fresh off college. I was in a headspace of I want to just live my life. But I was there. My mom would never let me be the parent that just isn't in the child's life or she's doing everything. So I was there. I was doing all of the things that needed to be done. But I don't think up until then there's I think I'm just comparing it to being a parent or being a mother later on in life when I'd grown up and how I approached it in the early stages to how I approached it then. I knew I had a baby and I loved him to death, but I just wasn't necessarily, I still thought I still deserved to live my life and all of those things. So that's when I think I was, the instincts were there, but they kicked in full effect when I saw my child in danger.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
because I think earlier on I probably treated my child as like my sibling because I'd also sort of helped raise my brother. So I knew how to raise a baby. So maybe the same attachment I had with him was probably the same as I had with my brother when I was raising him. But
Mm-hmm.
then when I then saw this, when this incident happened, I realized this is my baby. I'm never. I would die
Mm-hmm.
before I let somebody do that. So that's what I meant.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought I would ask
Yeah.
because just as you said that, I was looking up at but what some work that Cambridge University did
Mm.
in defining what maternal instinct is. They say
Yeah.
that it's the woman's natural ability to aid, assist, embrace, or invest in their offspring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you're
Mm-hmm.
doing all of
Mm-hmm.
that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was. Yeah.
yeah, so maybe I guess as you then described it to say, well, you've kind of done things a little differently with the other children, but that's I'm guessing because you
Yes.
had
Yeah.
experience of a sort
Exactly.
from
Yes.
the
So
first
it's.
one. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's just a bit of encouragement from me to you to say, whilst you may think that you didn't have motherly instinct, you actually
Yeah.
did, and add
Oh,
that to your repertoire of things that you've done well as a parent.
thank you. That's nice to hear.
Mm.
So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Uh, Me and him get back together.
Mm.
I uh, I think what kept it going for a few months was definitely the fact that the replay of everything that had happened and him threatening my child. So I had to do everything I could.
Fear.
Yes, so he begged and all of these things. He again apologized, but what apology could you give me when you dangled my child? Like,
Yeah.
there's no apology that could ever work. I
Mm.
was just now there just to keep things. I think I hoped at some point he would break up with me. I think I probably even started acting out a little more because he didn't like the fact that I'm a very opinionated person. um and well, now as I'm older, I've learned to use that in a good way. But when I was younger, I'm sure I just said things as they were. When I didn't necessarily have a filter. I was very opinionated. I said what I thought then. That's the person I was, and he didn't like that.
Did you really? Because you didn't say no to him. You didn't say no to peer
um
pressure. You weren't
oh, yes,
opinionated
yes.
then.
No, I was so. So here's the thing. I wasn't opinionated. I wasn't going to, as I explained, me getting with him was more, the people close to me telling me that I was wrong in thinking that he wasn't a good person, right? And initially, I didn't have a reason to not do this. Everyone was telling me he was a good person. And as a child, I was never one to talk back. I'm very opinionated, but never want to talk back, especially when it comes to my mother. I've never, to this day, I don't really. Will she ever? I don't. I don't. I will keep my thoughts to myself.
So where would your opinion be
Um,
expressed for you to then be described as
Oh,
opinionated?
everywhere else, everywhere else, especially with him again,
Yeah.
because I think I didn't care. I
Hmm.
didn't like him, so I didn't care. I just said things when I wanted. Like I just, I didn't care,
Hmm.
and I think I was also trying to get to a point where it was his choice to leave, not mine,
Right.
because I
Okay.
knew I can't. There's no way that I can say it's over and he'll
Yeah.
accept it.
Mm,
Hmm.
mm, mm.
So I needed him to break up with me to be done with it. Uh yeah, so he hated that side of me, and that always got me in trouble with him, and he'd shout and scream and blah blah blah. Um, but it never pushed him to say it's over. Um, yeah, we had a whole lot of other fights in between, broke up, blah blah blah. But I could sense that he could tell that something was wrong. He could tell that he was losing me, which is I think why he was also getting a little more angrier and a little more aggressive and things like that, because he could tell I really didn't want to be there anymore. Things were not good, but he was not going to be the one that to him a breakup wasn't happening.
Mm,
That's basically what it is,
mm.
right? So in the fights that kept coming up here and there, because obviously I was just doing everything I could, he kept on harping on the point of he is preparing to marry me, and he would do it today if I said yes. And I kept saying, no, it's not going to happen. Not now. I'd stopped talking about leaving him, because I didn't want to aggravate him. After that last incident with my son and stuff, never did I mention that I'd leave him.
Did you
even
say,
though I wanted to.
I might have missed this. Did you say you were living on your own?
No, I was living at my mom's. I was at home.
So he would come into your mother's house and do that in your mother's house?
No, so my mother's house has two doors, the front door and like the kitchen door. The kitchen door is like at the back of the house.
Right.
So most of the time actually when he would come, and all of these other dramas would be because either we're talking at the back end of the house. When everyone was there and my mom was there and everything like that, because this is a person that she knew, so he would come to the house and she'd know he's there. And in those moments, he'd be fine, everything would be okay. And I think I also didn't want to let on that anything was wrong. So I never really said it to anybody. I never let anyone realize that anything was wrong. Mainly also because, one, the shame. Two, I didn't want to. I'd already had this, baby outside of, whilst I was in college and stuff like that, baby daddy not around. So I didn't want to pile on something else. I just wanted. I knew this wasn't working, but I didn't want to have more problems on top of problems. I just wanted everything to be okay.
So I guess one more important question was, did he do this thing with your son when your mom was around, or she wasn't around on that day?
No, she wasn't around because if I remember correctly, it was a weekend. He knew she wasn't around because she'd leave in the morning, maybe to go to town or whatever, to do her errands. So he came when she wasn't around. That all happened when she wasn't around.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, and no one was there, which is why I said nobody would believe me if I said that this is what happened. So she wasn't around.
Okay.
So he keeps getting agitated and he realizes something's wrong. So in realizing something is wrong, he started, which I then found out a little later, he started just hanging out, like following me when I didn't know he was there. So he was stalking and stuff. And it got to the point where when we're at home in the evening, he'd be outside, just listening in. So I would hear from conversations when he's angry, when he would be like, you guys were saying this and that, and you were doing that and this. And, it would only make sense that, but when this was said, I was at home, or I was talking to someone at home, or I was talking to, our helper, but this is something that happened when he wasn't supposed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those things started adding up, and I realized he would be outside. So he would lurk around at our house, outside the house, just to listen into conversations, just to hear what we're saying, and also I think he was also trying to see if I'd said anything to my mom about what was happening or what he'd done, to try and gauge where things are and what people think and what people know and all of that. And to find ways of using it against me or to his advantage and all of that. So I realized I was getting, the situation was getting a little out of control. And he wasn't getting the message of he needs to, like, at least let me go. This is not working. I mean, if a relationship is not working, you would think somebody would just be like, you know what, this is not working for me, I'm out. But no, he wasn't doing that. After the stalking at the house, right? One particular day, he follows me to, I was now avoiding us meeting when we're going to work and after work and things like that. I was just trying to make sure we see each other here and there, not every single day. So he realized I was dodging him. So he followed me to work. So when he followed me to work, it was one of those. He knew would meet when we were in Good Books. Would meet around, let's say 7:30 or something like, well, 6:30 ish, on our way to work, and would go together. And then let's say work ends at 5. By 5:30 or 6, we're meeting up and we're coming home. So now I'll just either be late, a little late, or a little early. And I had also, I think, found a way at work to start at least an hour or so, an hour or so later. Instead of starting like at 8, I'd gotten to start like at 9:30 type thing. So I didn't need to leave the house that early. So I'd be at home till a certain time, and then when I think he's gone, I would leave the house and sneak off and go to work. He realized something's up. This girl's not, she can't not be going to work. Something's wrong. He stayed. The house he stayed at was a family home. I don't know who it was in his family who owned this property. They rented out the main house, but him and his cousins stayed in the cottage. So it was, I think, about about 4 or 5 of them that stayed in this cottage. A bunch of cousins that stayed at this cottage. So he sent one of his cousins to tell me that he had an asthma attack and he wasn't feeling well and what. And then I think I knew he was trying to manipulate me, so I didn't fall for it. I was like, okay, cool, I'll come see him later, like after work, right? I didn't go. I didn't go see him. He calls later. He is going on, hey, I'm almost dying here and you don't care. What? It goes. And apparently when he sent his cousin to tell me this, he also then sent a message, because he was buddy with my mom. He sent a message to my mom that he had an asthma attack, blah, 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 blah. And I actually got home and she had printed all the stuff about asthma. Like, she was really invested. She really thought, this guy was about to die. Like, he'd sold it as he was, holding on to dear life. And she even asked me, did you go see him? Is he okay? And I'm like, no, I didn't. But I didn't want to also explain why I didn't. I just said, no, I didn't, but I'll go. So he's just upset about this. So that's when he then, the next day, waited for me to leave. So he then clocked that I wasn't leaving home the time that I used to. So he waited for me to leave home to go to work. He follows me. He's following me into like down the street to go and get combis to get into town to go to work. We have a disagreement where that's when he's shouting at me on the, why didn't you come see me? I'm sick. What? You don't care. All of these things. Did I know the guy had a knife?
Oh.
No. At some point, this knife comes out. And so when it came out, he's threatening to stab me. But I'm just a stubborn person. And I didn't think this would happen. Like, who thinks? Like, I don't think people just walk around with knives and actually stab people. So I didn't take it as seriously as I should have. Because I didn't think he would use the knife on me. But anyway, I can't say he meant to stab me, but how else do you stab someone without meaning to stab them? Bruh. So at some point in the scuffle because he was trying to stop me from going to work. Actually, that's what happened. He was like, you can't go to work because I'm not feeling well. How are you going to work? You don't even care how I am.
Bruh.
So so he's trying to stop me from going to work, and I'm saying, no, I'm going. I am going to work. I'll come see you later, but I'm going to work. In this scuffle, he stabs me. So I think what happened in the moment is that with adrenaline and everything, because he's already pushing and shoving me and stuff like that, and I realize there's a knife, but I don't quite feel I feel a sting, but I don't feel the actual, I don't know what people feel really when you get stabbed, but I didn't realize that it had actually gone in, like that the knife had actually gone in. So we have the scuffle, and I was wearing a pink top but I was wearing a black jacket over it. So didn't notice anything, whatever. We keep going. I don't think he even realized it had gone in, because I think it was one of those, it went in and he quickly through all of that happened. But I don't think he realized. I don't think either of us realized what had actually happened. It was on my like shoulder blade, left shoulder blade, yeah, in my back. We walk. He's still adamant, trying to stop me from going. He realizes it's not working. I get to the corner. I get into a combi. He gets into the combi with me. And this combi was full already. There was no way to sit. He's literally just standing next to, because he told the driver he's not like, yes, he has Zara and stuff, but we're going together. I'm not leaving this girl. She's not going on her own, right? So now already everyone in the combi is like, what's going on? You know, everyone is now trying to figure out. But anyway, he gets into the combi. He's right there by the conductor. He's right there, and throughout the whole trip, he is shouting at me.
Yo.
So he's now trying to make it seem as though I've been cheating on him. Like, he's trying to play a narrative where people are on his side, because obviously people are trying to figure out what's going on. He is just trying to embarrass me, trying to in this very full combi. He's shouting, he is calling me all type of names, he is, he's really just going off at me. Everyone's wondering what's happening, but no one is. And that's the thing with people don't intervene when they should. People just, and I think that's also the thing that happens with most women. People believe the man before they believe the woman. I never said anything, yes, but at least if somebody would have asked, or at least somebody should have noticed that, why would somebody just start going off? It's not a place where you should be doing this to begin with. Like, something about this should have seemed off to someone. But no, nobody did anything. No, actually, I got weird looks from people where they were, quite judgmental during this whole process. But anyway, we get into town and he is still going on. He's still going on. I used to I'd have to get another combi to get to work. I get the second one together with him because he's still following me. We drop off. It wasn't far. It was the second one. The second connect would probably be like 15 minutes from town to work. He's in the thing. He's still going on. He's really just on a rant. We get off the second one. So where our drop off work would be like a stone throw away. I could actually see my gate from where I'll drop off. We get off, we get there. At work, there was a security guard. So I get there, the security guard can see something's going on, because I keep telling him, you can't come with me to work. Like, nothing, because now he's saying, when we get to work, I'm going to tell them that you can't be here and you have to come back home.
Wow.
If it means you lose your job, because you can't, we are going home together.
He was reckless, wasn't he?
It was a piece of work. It was a piece of work. So the security guard can see something's happening. He quickly caught on to, something's not right. So when I got to the gate, the security guard was like, "Is everything okay?" And then I said it was okay, but he could tell it wasn't. I just said, no, everything's fine. But he could tell it wasn't. And then he refused for him to enter because he was also trying to get in. So the security was like, "No, you can't. We like only employees type thing, whatever. You've got no business." Trying to just make sure I was safe, which was, the first person that had actually helped in this situation. And so during this scuffle, he took my phone. I think at some point he took my phone. Because he thought maybe if he took my phone, I wouldn't go to work or whatever. I was like, okay, keep the phone. I'm going to work because I don't want to deal with this the whole day. So he had my phone. The security locks him out of the gate. I go into work and I'm thinking, okay, calm down. Everything is going to be fine. Maybe by the end of the day, he's calmed down or whatever. And then we'll see what happens after. I go into work and a few hours later, he comes back. He comes in this, so he gets to the security and he says, she forgot her phone in the morning, so I want to give her her phone. So security at this point is like, okay, if it's just giving the phone, it's fine. Go and give the phone. Because he didn't really know what had happened, but he knew something was wrong. He just thought, okay, fine. It's just, you just want to give her a phone, cool. He gets to the reception and he starts shouting. He starts shouting and he throws this phone at me and he walks out.
What was he shouting, saying?
The whole thing, why did you come to work? You're choosing work over me. All these derogatory, you're a bitch, you're this, you're trying to, I've been there for you. All of he was calling me names. He was trying to belittle me. He was on a rant. He leaves. No, I'm trying to calm him down because this is work. I'm trying to calm him down. We walk out together. He throws the phone at me, pick up my phone. I'm trying to calm him down. We walk out together to the gate. I don't know whose car he had borrowed, but he was outside with a car. So we walk together to the gate, to the car. I'm trying to calm him down. I'm like, it's okay. It's fine. I'll come to your house after work. I promise I'll come to your house after work. I'm sorry. Just, trying to calm down the situation. I get there. He's like, no, if you're coming now. Let's go back now. And I'm trying to explain, no, I can't do that. In the middle of explaining, he slams the car door. So he slammed it in a way because he was almost in the car. Like he was sitting by the driver's seat. And I was outside on the other side of the door, and he slammed the door into my face. So it actually hit my eye, and literally my eye started bleeding immediately. So up until this time, Tinto, I don't realize the stabbing. Remember, we have this. Yeah. This is the same day. So my eye is now bleeding. The security guy noticed the scuffle. He noticed the door hitting my eye and me starting to bleed. He comes running. He slams the door and drives off, speeds off, because he realized, he could get into actual trouble now. He speeds off. Security guy walks me back into the office. I'm bleeding. And then now it's I think also with everything that's happening, I remove the black jacket that I was wearing. In removing the black jacket, that's when people tell me you're bleeding from your back is bleeding. There's blood on your shirt. That's when I realized that knife actually got in. I was bleeding. I'd actually been stabbed. It wasn't I still have the scar, but it wasn't like deep. But he had managed to penetrate through the skin. That's when I realized this was happening. So everyone now is panicking. What happened? What was he holding? I'm then trying to explain, no, I think this actually happened earlier. I just didn't realize it because I was wearing a jacket and it bled through. And then the eye, it's now a black eye. The people from work are very helpful now because they see this. They're very helpful. My boss was well connected then. It was a very small organization, but he was very well connected. He's like, no, we need to get the police involved. He had his, I think he had friends in Interpol and whatever. He's like, no, I'm calling my friends and they're going to come and they're going to deal with this. I'm like, finally, someone is on my side. Sure. He calls his friends. My boss calls his friends. They come to the office. They ask me questions. They ask me where he works and all of these other questions. I tell them everything I know and stuff. They're like, okay, we will leave it to us. We will deal with this. Because they could see, now they see the eye, they see the bleeding, the stab wound, all of these. We even left, I think, and went to the police station, yes, and filed a case. All of this work people are helping me through all of this. And is it the same day or the next day? It could be the same day. The Interpol guy comes back late. No, it could be the next day. Probably the next day. The Interpol guy comes back. Okay, let me maintain the same day. So in the same day, Interpol guy goes. I go back home. I get home, black eye and all, walk into the house, and my mom asks what happened, right? And I mentioned, Thunder, did this. And her first question after what happened was, what had you done? That broke me. That I'm your daughter. I have a black eye. And and your reaction is like, there wasn't really much of a reaction to be like, it's what had you done? What did you do for him to do that? I was shattered. It confirmed everything I thought from the beginning, that nobody would believe me. And even now I have evidence, like, this is what he's done. Does it even matter what I had done? Like, what do I need to have done for someone to do this to me? So she says this. I don't think I even then got into the explanation of what happened. And obviously he now knew that, it's over. There's no way we recovered. This had been the extreme. So he didn't contact me on that day at all. Didn't hear from him. I think I went to work the next day. Should have been the next day or day after or whatever. But then when I went to work, I remember the Interpol guy then came back and he's like, so I went and saw this person that you spoke about. I went and saw, we went to Thunder and asked him about all of this. And this guy actually said, I mean, this is actual police, like the people that are supposed to protect you and all of these things. And he said, are you sure the guy we saw is the same guy that did all of this to you? Have you ever felt like, why do I even bother? Like, why would I even tell anyone anything after this? I felt so defeated. I felt so lost, because I'm really now in a space where I'm thinking, how am I imagining a black eye? I didn't hit myself. This happened whilst there was someone was there. They saw this happen. For the first time, somebody was actually there to see it happen. You saw it happen. How do you? And nothing ever really happened. Nothing ever really happened. No one did. They couldn't believe. They believed it happened because they saw, and there's somebody that was saying it happened, but they could not pursue it because the impression he gave them when they went to him was this very nice, very calm and very caring person. And how could this person be the same person that hurt you like that? I think that's where you understand, I don't know if it's narcissism or whatever it's called, where somebody can just be two totally different people. Two totally different people that it's so believable. There's such a nice guy that it's so believable. You could never convince someone that they are not this person. So you would think that's the end of the drama, but no, this is where it begins. So nothing's done about this. He sort of lays low-ish a bit, doesn't really pursue, but then the stalking was still happening, but I thought he had pulled back. That's what I thought, but he hadn't. And because I'm saying this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen, because he then at some point he pulled back for a bit, and then at some point came back with, we're getting married. It wasn't let's get back together. It was, we're getting married. Let's get married. I'm thinking, are you crazy? Like, do you have amnesia where you're not there? Do you not know what we've been through? But he didn't quite. I don't know. I don't know. If screws were loose, I don't know. In his bid to convince me to get back together with him, I think he figured threatening me was the only thing that would work. So one day, again, an afternoon where I was home and my mom wasn't there, he comes to our house again with a gun.
What?
Yes. Was it real? Was it not? It looked real enough. I don't know about guns. It wasn't like a water gun. That much I know. It was, because at some point he actually put it down. Like, he came, put it down so that I could see that it was there. whilst he's having this conversation with me. So I did hold it enough, and it was weighty and whatever. So it could have been fake, but it was a gun. What do I know? And he's like, this is not happening. The only way you and I are breaking up is if you're dead, or either one of us is dead. That's how we leave this. This is not happening. And this is at home where you think you're safe and stuff, but you're not. He threatens that, and I don't budge. I think he then left because someone came to the house or something, but then that's how he left. But the gun was trying to convince me to. The gun was trying to convince me to stay. And on a separate occasion, he actually came to the house. We were there with my mother. Now, because he was running out of options, he came to the house when my mom was there, and he had asked her to sort of mediate. And I think at this point he wanted to explain himself and apologize to my mother. That's how he put it to her, right? So she allowed him to come because, again, she doesn't know how crazy he is, to the extent of his crazy. I mean, she'd seen the stab wound and the black eye, but she wasn't convinced, I guess. He comes to the house. We're in the house, and he tries to apologize to my mom, and he's trying to tell her he can be better. And he was just, I'm stubborn. And he just, got a little overwhelmed. And it's just that he loves me so much that he can't imagine life without me. So that's why he's acting out. And, the idea of me leaving him is triggering and all of these nice things. But at this point, my mom is not necessarily buying it, because she's also then saying, you're not in a relationship with me, you're in a relationship with my daughter. If she's saying no, I can't really do anything. And this infuriates him. He's like, you need to tell your daughter to get back together with me. That's what needs to happen. That's what's happening today. You people, and he then got so upset, he starts shouting at me and my mother. You people both are crazy. You need to convince your daughter to, and I mean, this is a household where it's just me and my mother and our helper. I think my brother then was very young. Yeah, very young. And our helper. So it's just females, really. So I guess he knew he could take advantage of that situation. It got to a point in this argument that he locked us in the house.
Wait a minute.
And he's holding the keys.
And he was inside the house?
He was in the house. Because I think he came to have a conversation. So, you don't have conversations outside the house. So we were in the house at some point. But then when he realized things are not going his way, he locked the door. And he's like, none of us are going anywhere until you guys tell me that we're getting married. That's what's happening here.
That is unbelievable.
I laughed, but it wasn't funny then. It really wasn't funny. So it was now getting loud. So at my mother's house, they are, not necessarily neighbors, but it's a large yard with two main houses. Right. So the guys in the other house heard the commotion, and luckily the other guy was I don't know, he worked with the police or something like that, but he was one of those people. So he then came to the door and he started knocking, he started banging on the door. So he goes to the door and he opens the door, and this guy's asking, what's the noise about? There's a commotion, what's going on? And then I don't know why he thought people would understand him, but people did. I'll explain this, as we go. But he's explaining to this guy that it's just a misunderstanding, and it's okay. Don't worry, nothing's wrong. It's just a misunderstanding. We didn't get a chance to talk to this guy anyway. But then after this guy came, so this guy then talks him down and is like, you know what? Because it's a misunderstanding and it's getting loud, I think you should just go back and then you guys can talk when everything is calmer and all of that. So I guess because he realized, other people were coming into the picture, he didn't want it to become a whole thing. So he left after, locking us in the house. So at this point, I guess me and my mama are on the same page about, this is a little this is getting crazy.
She's now starting to believe you now.
Yes, so she's okay with, but there was still a side of, where it seemed like I don't know what I'd done.
Yeah.
There was still a little shade in the belief, but yeah, she could tell he's a little crazy. So another day, different day, he then goes to a helper whilst I wasn't at home, and he gets. Wait, was that the same day? Yeah. At some point, he gets. This could have been earlier, but anyway, at some point, I may have gotten my wires crossed. But anyway, at some point, he came to our. No, it must have been around about the same time because we were not together then. He went to our house. I wasn't there. He went to our helper because I realized later that he would pay her either for information or for these other things that he needed.
He'd pay your helper.
She would. Yeah, for information, for all of these things. So in this particular occasion, he paid her, and she gave him my clothes, like some of my clothes, not all of them, but like a bag full of my clothes during the afternoon and all of that. I don't know how he convinced her, but I don't know. But she was paid for it. I know she was paid for it. And then he went with my clothes to his house. So what he then did is he came to me. Yeah, it was the clothes and oh dear Lord. It was the clothes and something that he knew I needed. I've forgotten what it was. But it was a clothes and something. So he made sure whatever it was, I would then have to go to his house to get it. Right. So I went to his house to get these things. And didn't leave for the next week or so, I think. Yeah. Stayed there because I got there, obviously, saw the clothes, and he locked the door. I was like, you ain't going nowhere. It's not happening. So at this point, he quit work. He had stopped going to work at this point where he, now I was a prisoner in his house. He stopped going to work. And he said, you're not going anywhere. Your clothes are here. You are not going anywhere. And that was that for, I think I had my phone, so trying to communicate with everyone, but
hang on.
Everyone believes.
If this guy is clearly dangerous like this, why were you going to his house?
I didn't. Do you think somebody's going to lock you in their house?
He's already locked you in your own house, so there's a greater possibility he's going to lock you in his.
Well, true.
He's got no boundaries, right? He's got no boundaries. He's come to your workplace. He's made a scene. He's shouted at you in public. At the taxi rank when you're trying to get transport to go. He shouted at you in the taxi itself. All of the places where he should be decent, he is indecent, and is open about it. How did you have the courage to go to a solo place? And you've already been.
No, I think when I went, I think I put, because he didn't stay alone. So I don't think I went there thinking he's alone and I'm going to be alone with him, because I was already scared of him to that degree. So again, this honestly was a while back, so I can't speak for my frame of mind then in the moment. What I do remember is I did go because I thought I was just getting my things and leaving, and and this happened.
So can I just check just one piece of information? How important were these things? Because
I know it was clothes and something else, but the something else is what was really important that I could not exactly. I just do not remember what it was, but he made sure I could. And my memory is really fuzzy on but it could have been a point where he knew I wasn't going to go there if he was alone. So I thought he made it seem as if everyone was there, like his family members were there, or he wasn't there and I could just go and collect something like that. But it was made to feel as though I wouldn't be in any danger, right? So I go anyway. He locks up. He gets obviously the helper to tell my mom that I've decided. I actually moved. I packed a bag and moved in with him. Um, so I couldn't like. That's what she believed. I'm talking to her. I'm telling her I can't. Yeah. Anyway, I was there for a few days.
Wait a minute. You were at his house for a few days.
For a few days. Let me explain. And there's no justification, but let me explain. Got there. And remember, he had come with a gun. This is just after the gun and him locking us in the house. And remember what he had tried to do to my son initially?
Mm.
I was not in a position where I was terrified of him at this point. I was not in a position where now I had put again. There's not just my child. There's my mom. There's my brother at this house. I'm putting all of these people in danger because of this one thing and this one thing that is a part of my life. So it seems like I'm making a mistake again. Again, there's a level of shame in, but like I can't bring this drama again to the house. So I'm thinking maybe if I'm a little what's the word? This word, man. But if I go along with things, maybe there's a way this situation turns out differently. Maybe I'm the problem. It gets to a point where, especially when a detective goes to a person and comes back and tells you this can't be the same person you're talking about, it literally, honestly, fucks with your mind to a point where you're thinking, am I the problem? Like, what is going on? Am I the drama in this situation? Right. So I'm there. In being there, he at some point tries to kill himself because I kept saying I want to go home. He pretends to try and kill himself. I realized he took a bunch of meds, pretended as though he swallowed them, only discovered he had hid them under the couch because he took them and then he walked out or something like that. And then I realized that they were in the house. He had hid them on the couch. So he pretended he was killing himself because I didn't want to be with him. It was all of revolving around, you don't want to be with me. You don't want to get married to me. You can't be with anybody else. You can't leave me. Don't leave me. I can't be without you. That was how the narrative of the whole thing was. In discovering these pills that he pretended he'd taken, I discovered he was also like going to traditional healers and like every form of anything he could use, without from apostory or everything. Everything was in that house. He had stones, he had all of these things. So I don't know to what extent. I'm not one to believe in that. I've been Christian and, I believe in that part of things, but I can't speak for, do they work? Do they not? What it was doing for him. Honestly, maybe it's how everyone else thought he was such a good person, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, I saw all of these things, discovered that's what he was into and that's what he was trying to do. I guess some of it also was trying to keep me in the relationship. I don't know. I don't know how far it worked. It could have worked, could have not. I don't know. Maybe I was just naive and stupid. I don't know. But then what then happened? How did I go back home? Oh, how did I go back home? To be honest, I don't remember how I went back home. I think he left because remember he had stopped going to work. So here we are just sitting and nothing. And he's not leaving the house, literally. Nobody's leaving the house. And funny enough, his cousins and everything was there and everyone believed I was there again, because now I don't want to bring anyone into this situation because of how crazy it had gotten. I guess I did a very good job of convincing people that I was there on not against my will.
Yeah.
So he stops going to work, but one day he had to leave. I don't know what he had to leave to do. But when he left, his cousins were at work. No one was there, and I left.
Mm.
I left and went back home. When I went back home, I realized I couldn't stay at home because that's the first place he was going to find me. And I didn't know what he was going to do if he found me at home. And again, I don't want to bring my parents, my mom, my sibling, and my child into this drama. So I had to leave. So I moved out of the house. I got home, spoke to my mom, told her I'm leaving. She sort of understood, but also didn't understand because she thought I'd left to go to him. And so I'm trying to explain, no, I did not leave. I need to leave. I can't stay here. And I did not go there willingly. This is what happened, what. But I leave. I went to stay with this friend. I went to stay with this friend. I was there for like a day or two, actually, not even a week, like 2 days, literally. He discovered, so he came back obviously to his house, discovered I wasn't there, went to look for me at my house, was told I wasn't there. So now at this point, he knew I had enrolled for lessons at a college for evening lessons, right? Because I remember whilst I'd gone to his place, I'd missed work. But when I missed work, I was able to call in work. So at work, they thought I called in sick for that whatever duration. I didn't know how long I was going to be there, but I told them I wasn't feeling well and I wasn't going to be around, which was fine. So I still had my job. So when I went back home and moved out, I still had work. But so I had enrolled for college at like evening lessons. Cool. So he knew this timetable. He couldn't find me at my mother's house. So he, I guess, followed me. I didn't see him, but I guess at some point he followed me from work to school and then figured out where I was. Right? Figured out where I was staying. I think 2 days go by. I'm at this friend's house. I think now it was a Saturday or something like that. Early morning. I'm at this friend's house. No, it was in the afternoon. But anyway, I'm at this friend's house. We get a knock, and it's 2 police officers. Right? Yeah. Police officers come, and they're like, we're looking for, I get to the door, and they're like, and this is where it gets ridiculous. They're like, because when I left, remember when I ran away, when I escaped when he wasn't around, I didn't have time to gather my thoughts, gather my things, or anything like that. I just left. I saw an opportunity to leave. I left. So my things were still at his house. So police officers are like, we've heard there's a situation with you and this guy, and we hear your things that are at his place, right? Then I actually asked them, do you know the circumstances around the situation? They're like, yes, no, we're from the, that's what they call victim friendly type thing. What are those? They dressed it up so nicely, these police officers in uniform and everything.
Yeah.
They say, so we're just here to help you get your things back. I even asked, can't you just go get the things and take them to at least my mother's place? Like, no, that's not how it works. You need to go and account for your things. But we are here for what? For your protection. Again, victim friendly, whatever, right? We are here for your protection. It is a quick in and out. You will go get your things. We will be there to make sure everything is okay. And then we will bring you back here. Right? Cool. My naive 20-year-old self goes with police because it's police officers. My friend is actually there, saw the whole thing. Cool. I leave with police officers. We get to his house. And sure, they're there. But I was so terrified. I was so, like, ugh. Anyway, we get to his house. He's there. We walk in. Oh gosh, I even have flashbacks of this thing happening. We walk into this house. He's there. The officers asked me to take a seat just so we have a conversation before you take your things and go. They sit down closer to the door. I should have honestly noticed this when this happened. But they sat down closer to the door. I sat down, and they asked him, "Is this the person that you're talking about?" Yes. Okay. Where are the things that she needs to get? So this is all sounding okay, right? This is all sounding okay. This sounds legit. And then he goes to his room to get the bag. He gets the bag, comes and drops it in front of the police officers. And then they actually ask me, "Is that your bag?" Yes, it is. And then just like that, he laughs. And he goes, "So you thought you'd actually left?" And I'm thinking, sorry, what? And it's like, these are my friends. Like, what did you think was happening? These are my friends. And then I look at these guys and I tell them, but I asked you guys if you knew what was going on and you promised me I'd be safe. And then they're like, "No, nothing is going to happen. We're just facilitating a conversation. Clearly, it's a misunderstanding and we're just here to facilitate a conversation." I think I felt the blood just leave my body at that point.
Yeah.
And they get up. Okay, so when he gets up, goes and grabs, what do you call them? Computer codes. The code that you put on a what is it even called? But a cable for desktops, right? That was what he came back. So he comes back holding this thing, and is like, "You know what? I've let you get away with this for too long. You're not going to do this again." And I knew, and he's holding this thing, and then he whips me the first time. So when he does this, these officers get up and they're like, "No, this can't happen whilst we're here." And they walk out and left me in this room with this man who's hitting me. That's when I realized, I guess, these people were not police officers at all. And they left. And they left. And he locked the door. And the next, I don't know if it was, I don't know. I lost track of time. I don't know if it was the next 30 minutes or an hour. It was from the power cable to, at some point, it was even an iron rod. Like, those iron rods for, Bagla Bar iron rods.
Yeah.
Because I know there were some at their house. From that to the iron rod to pretty much anything he could get his hands on was on my body. At some point, his cousins came back and the door was locked. And they could hear me crying. And then they left. They left me in this house with a man that was beating me senseless. I know a neighbor actually came because of the screams. She came. She tried to knock. She tried to get him to open the door. He was like, "No, it's not happening." He threatened everybody. The cousins threatened them and they left. The neighbor was told, "I could hit you too. Like, literally, what are you doing here?" And at some point, I passed out. I don't remember at what point. I don't remember how long it had been, but it was now evening. That much I know, and I passed out. At this point, he had a small car that he was using. I think he had gotten somebody's car, but he had a small car that I was using. I passed out, and next I remember I was in the back of the car, and he was driving somewhere. I only realized, I think later, that we were, how do I even describe where we were? But we were like quite a bit of distance from home, like in a different town. Well, no, not town, but like a different residential area, but quite far from home. Like at least maybe 20K from home. That's when like I came back to, realized I'm in this car and he's driving. Yeah, we ended up at some place. We ended up at some, it seemed like a conference type thing, like a church conference thing that was being like in a remote part of, in a remote part. And we were at this conference. I was bruised, but I was bruised where it's covered, right? Because he wasn't hitting my face; he was hitting everywhere else. But I was bruised. I was in bad shape. I was in bad shape. At this place we got to, he told them I wasn't feeling well. Um, and I think for the next couple of days, because I was so bruised, we were there for I think 2 days. So what happened whilst we were there? Whilst this happened, when the cousins left and the neighbor, to their, like, at least in their defense, they tried to get help. They went to the neighbor. Then actually went to my mom when she came back and told her what had happened. And told her she actually saw him, carry me into the car. And at this point, they didn't even know if I was alive or not, because they could see I was not conscious when he put me in the car. And from what she described, from the noise and the crying and the screams and everything, there's a good chance that I may not have been alive when they put me in the car, when he put me in the car. So at this point, at least, finally, it was actually an emergency for everyone. Whilst I'm there, this was probably today. So now they're trying to call him. He's screening calls. He's not taking people's calls. The neighbors and everyone is trying. He now has my phone. The neighbors and everyone are trying to convince him to bring me back. At least just bring her back, because this is about to be this was a police case already. My mom was told I could be dead. So she'd gone to the police now. Made a report. Everyone is trying to convince him. Just bring her back. Bring her back. We just need to know she's okay. At this point, I think he realized how bad it was. I think he snapped at some point during this whole thing and didn't think of the implications of everything he was doing. And so now everyone is trying to convince him. And I think he was actually scared. Scared if I go back, I won't come back and he'd lose me. That was still a very big fear of his. But also scared at what would happen to him. Them convincing him to come wasn't working. So they convinced him to get me to at least talk to. So then my mom, I think he finally picked up one of my mom's calls or something. And then she was like, at least let me know she's alive. Can I speak to her? And out of nowhere, he hands me the phone. This is the first time I'm speaking to anyone. And he hands me the phone and my mom is like, are you okay? And this man is right here. I'm not going to say, no, I'm not. I almost died. I was bitten to an inch of my life. I can't say no. I can't, at this point, anything he says, I'll do. It honestly, if it will stop the beatings, it will stop everything. At this point, I think I remember in these 2 days or whatever that I was missing, actually pleading with God to just help me be submissive. Help me be okay with the situation, because clearly I'm the problem. So if I just do what he wants, I'll be okay. He won't hit me. He won't threaten anyone else. I prayed to God to just change me. So my mom's asking, and I said, I'm okay. But I could. I'm sure even in speaking to her, my voice was breaking, and she could sense I wasn't okay. So I said I'm okay, and he grabs the phone, takes the phone, and that was that. She called again, I think I don't know if it's the other times he would screen the call, so he wouldn't pick up the calls. I think the next day she called and he picked up again. And then he did give me the phone to speak to her. And then at this point, my mom actually asked me, and she didn't ask because I think she figured out that he's either close by or he's listening into the conversation and I can't speak. So she actually asked me in Ndebele if I was okay. And that's when I was able to tell her I wasn't okay. And then I think I gave him back the phone or something like that, because I think he also sensed that, why are you changing languages? Like, what's going on? And I think after 3 or so days of this happening, the police then I don't know if it's the police, somebody, he was communicating with everyone. So whoever it is then told him that this is about to become a manhunt. So we're giving you up to this time for her to at least show up, so that we know, because for all we know, it's not her that's on the phone. So that we know she's okay. Because he kept telling people, she's fine, she's here, we're okay. Nobody's, like, I didn't kidnap her or whatever. That's what he's trying to say. So they're like, no, this is about to be a manhunt because you're refusing to show up. The circumstances are that you carried a lifeless body into a car, and we don't know if the person that's on the other end of the phone is her. And we need you and her to show up. You need to show up, and she needs to just prove she's alive and she's well, and for her to just consent to this. So when they finally mentioned the manhunt, that's when he got spooked even more and realized, okay, this is going to, like, it's not going to take long for, like, a manhunt is a little extreme. So it spooked him enough for him to say, we're going. But he then made it clear, we are going, we get there, I am giving you 5 minutes to go in and get out, and we are going back. That was literally his words. You have 5 minutes, go in, tell them you are okay, and come back. We leave, we get home, and I knew he'd be outside. I knew he'd still be, he wasn't leaving me there. He would be outside waiting for me to come back. We got in, I got in the house, and my mom asked, are you okay? I initially, I think the first 2 times she asked, I said, I'm okay. The third time, she just said, because I started crying. I kept saying I'm okay, but I was crying. And I think I was visibly shaking as well, because I knew he's outside. So to me, in my head, while she's talking, all I'm thinking is 5 minutes. What happens in 5 minutes? Is he going to come in? What is going to happen? How worse does this get? I need to be out of here. In my mind, I was convinced I was getting there, telling them I'm okay and walking back. I was convinced this was going to be my life. I'm fine. I don't know if they call it, it's not even Stockholm syndrome, but yeah, probably. I just needed to go back so that this drama ends. And then the third time she just said, I'm not letting you go. You are not going back. You're not going back until you stop crying. And then I was like, no. I couldn't even say no, like to say that I didn't want to go back. I just nodded my head and was like a mess, crying and all of that. It's like, we're going to the police now. We get into her car. We got into our car, drove to the police. So when we were driving out, we could see his car. And he followed. So he didn't, but when we got to the police station, he didn't get into the police station, but he followed to see where we were going. So he was still there circling, waiting for me to leave. We get to the police station. Obviously there was a case. So they are, she's explaining, this is the girl, or what. I still, 3 days later, I had marks and bruises and everything, had to do that whole police take off your clothes so that they see the evidence of, this was, abuse and stuff like that. I think in the space of those few days, I'd lost so much weight. I was literally a skeleton. Uh, the police believed the story, of course. There was nothing not to believe. And they saw his car. Whilst, because we're also explaining, I'm explaining to them, he said, if I don't leave in 5 minutes, he's coming. And whilst we're talking, a police officer is outside because we mentioned that he followed us to the station. They actually see his car driving past. Uh, and we leave the police station. They're like, okay, statement, good. Okay, cool. What are next steps? Would need to get officers to actually get him. Do you like? Are we making this a case? Do you want this to go to court? What do you want? And I I don't know if it's that day or the no, it should be that day because I don't remember. I didn't sleep at my mother's house uh, after that. So whilst we're at the police, one of the female cops pulls us aside, and she says, "You know what? I want to be very honest with you. It's not that. It's not that the well." She explained that the way the justice system, especially in that country, works is that one, this will drag on for months. Two, um, you will need to relive this in court and all of that countless times. And the likelihood of you getting it, basically what she was trying to explain was like, try and figure out what it is you want to get out of this. And the likelihood of you getting what you want out of this may be slim or it will take too long. And I would not advise that you go through this route. You seem traumatized as it is. You've been through a lot. And I don't suggest that you keep seeing this person because going to court will result in you seeing this person over and over and reliving the situation over and over. And it's not a kind system. It may sometimes then feel like nobody believes you. She really sat down with me and my mom and she's like, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm telling you the facts of how it will happen, especially right now here and where we are. This will take a while and it will be a very draining and emotion and it will probably be more damaging emotionally for you than everything else you've been through. So in that moment, obviously we're like, okay, we'll think about it, whatever, if we're going to continue with the court case and making it a whole like thing. But we knew I couldn't go home because he was still, when we drove back home, he's still circling. He's still following the car. He's still circling. He's still there. We get home. My mom is like, I'm taking you to a friend's house. We packed a small bag. How we even got to, we waited for it to get dark a little. And I got into the car, into the back seat of the car, and I laid down so that he couldn't see that I was in the car. And my mom drove me to her friend's house, which was like in a different community, like a while away from home. And somewhere where he wouldn't think to look and stuff like that. And she made sure that he wasn't following and, all of that. We went through all of those type things to just make sure he didn't know where I was. I ended up being at this friend's house for, I think, a week or two, I think. Yeah. And even in this week, I kept, if the phone rang, I kept thinking it was him. I kept thinking he's going to find me. He's going to find me. He's going to find me. Because it only took either him following or going somewhere. My mom tried to make sure she didn't even visit me during that time to make sure he's got no access. But I kept, like, every phone call, every knock, I was so jumpy. I think that took years for it to not be a thing, to not be triggering. I was there for 2 weeks. We obviously decided not to do the court proceedings and stuff like that. The case was still remained open at the police, but they couldn't do anything if we're not going to court. So,
Yeah.
And then after 2 weeks, I left the country and went to a different country. I had a friend in who was in a different country, and she was like, you know what? If she needs to just leave, let her come here. And how I left, again, the same thing. She came pick me up. I laid down in the. I didn't even sleep at the house. No, my mom packed everything. I never went back to the house. Laid down in the car, pretended I was in the car, obviously, so that in case at any point he knew where I was or he followed the car or anything. Got until we got to how I was going to this other country was I went by bus, so till we got to the bus and I left the car, got into the bus. And even then, at every moment, even when I was in a different country, I kept thinking he is going to find me.
Yeah, yeah.
And a year later, guess what? He found me.
How?
Like in a different country, he found me. He followed to a different country. He found out I was in a different country. He came to that country, did not know where I was for months. I think somebody actually even then said he like lived in the street or something, was homeless at some point, but he was still in that country to find me.
What?
Yes, crazy, huh? And he found me. I don't know how he then got my number from but he found me. But it was less, I think by then, because this was now, I think a year later. And I don't know what had happened. I think a switch had flipped, but I just knew then, because I knew he didn't know where I was. Yes, he may have found a phone number, but he didn't know where I was staying. There was no way. And at that point, I had moved from my friend's house because there he could have found. Because I think how he found out where I was that he found out I was staying with that friend. So he knew which country that friend was. And then that's how he came to the country. So I knew if he knew where she was, he would find her. And if he found her, he would find me. So I did not stay with my friend for too long. I started staying somewhere else. And I knew there was no way. My friend didn't come to visit me. I visited her, but there was no way he would find me. So I think that switch of knowing and also realizing that his greatest weakness was the fact that he did not want to lose me. So I think a year later, it actually dawned on me, he's not going to find me. So he's the one that lost. Like I actually made it through this horrific thing and he's not going to find me. But the fact that he was in the same country was also just jarring. So it scarred me for a few months after. But I just knew he couldn't find me. So I told him that. I told him, you know what, you can do all the calling and whatever you can do on this phone. All I need to do is just change the line until you find another one or whatever. But you are not going to find me.
Damn.
And yeah, so eventually he stopped calling and I think I changed numbers or something. And then, yeah. But yeah. That's the skinny.
I am shocked.
Gosh, that was a lot to relive.
I am absolutely shocked.
Gosh, I haven't had to remember this story like in this much detail in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels good to not feel as hurt, not hurt, but as it's not as sore a subject as it was then. But that took a while. That took a long while. It took a long while. And even when I was in a different country and then moved back home eventually, it took a while for me to be comfortable in my mother's house because most of the things that happened around there, being in the same street, all of the things that happened in the same street. So, yeah. To this day, sometimes if I go back to my mother's house, it's oof,
I can imagine.
hard.
You know, there's there's some real trauma embedded in all of that, and then
It's hard.
you know, I'm just shocked at how people didn't pay attention or believe this thing right from the onset. From all avenues, it's
right. I mean, imagine going to the police and they not believe you. And then also getting the police involved one way or the other, whether they were real or not. So that also kind of puts the fear of how can I go to the police? How do I know which police to trust? Because were these actual police or were they not? Were they his friends? Well, they were his friends, but were they actual police? because the first time, remember, we'd made a case when he stabbed me and, gave me a black eye that time. We then realized he paid somebody for that issue to not go anyway. So I didn't know, I didn't feel safe with the justice system, and I just didn't feel safe at all.
I'm speechless, Nomvuyo. Like,
yeah.
Except to be grateful that you're here to share the story.
Yeah, I guess.
And just to remind someone, I don't know, for me the most important thing here is lesson number 2, always trust your gut.
Exactly.
And your instinct, because from the onset it told you that, hey man, something about this guy's energy is often you didn't like it.
It's not right.
There are obviously a lot of circumstances eventually that led to where we are today, but the gut, yeah.
I really should have stuck to my gut. I shouldn't have. I mean, obviously the peer pressure was also because I didn't want to disappoint everyone again. And I had my own issues going into this that obviously prolonged this whole situation. But it is, which is why I guess I say you can't, until you've lived somebody's story, or you can't judge people's decisions until you've actually known what choices they've had, because you don't know. You see the choices you see the decisions somebody makes, but you don't necessarily know what hand they were dealt. You don't know where it was coming from. Somebody would just think, why didn't you leave the first time? But as I said, the first time, honestly, it was shock and embarrassment the first time he slapped me. I was like, this can't be me. And I didn't think it would happen. And then after it happened the second or third time, it's just, and I did try to leave. I broke up with him so many times. And then there's the gun, and then there's the threats, and then there's my child. Unless you know how somebody made those decisions, it's sometimes very easy to be like, you should have just left. You should have done this differently. Why didn't you leave?
True.
Why didn't you do this? But, sometimes you're thinking of everyone else that's involved. And sometimes you're broken because of other events that you think, maybe I'm the problem. So if I got to an extent where this man was beating me up and I was praying to God to change me, not him.
Yeah.
Because I was now at the point where I was convinced this has to be a me problem. I need to just learn to shut up. Why do I keep saying I want to break up with him? Maybe if I just don't break up with him, we're fine. But yeah.
I'm speechless. Absolutely speechless. I get lesson number 1, which you've just said, that it's easier to judge someone's decision when you don't know the choices they had. That's very clear. Number 2 is spoken about the gut. Then the last one, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I should have left the first time he hit me.
Yeah.
I really should have. But I think as women, I don't know, can't speak for everyone, but I think, one, there is a degree of shame that comes with, because nobody expects it to happen to them until it does. And then when it does happen, because before this happens, you're thinking, I'm a strong, independent woman. Nobody could ever do that to me. And I'm sure, people who are listening and everyone will think the same thing. If it's never happened to you, you're thinking, I would never let a man lay a finger on me. And then when it does happen, you were thinking, me, the same person that thought I was this powerful, independent, person, like this actually happened. So you're embarrassed to actually admit that happened, and you then stay for too long sometimes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that with us, Nomvuyo. And for you who are able to stick around to the end of this really difficult episode, the lessons we've picked up, just want to say thank you for riding this wave, and I'm confident somebody's going to find your experience that you've just shared very, very, very helpful and very, very meaningful.
I hope so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And you all have been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I will catch you in next weekend's episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over. Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Rudo moto runoto kujidziro amai.
Kujidziro amai. Love is a fire.
Rudo moto runoto kujidziro amai.